Back to the Future. Could it actually happen with a real time machine? That's tonight's IDEA, our series on new ideas.
He was only 33 years old.
I was devastated. I thought if I could build a time machine that I could go back and see him again and tell him what was going to happen, you know, maybe save his life.
Can we really travel through time? Ever since H.G. Wells released The Time Machine, people have been fascinated by the idea. This story introduced us to a Victorian inventor who zips back to the year 802 AD. Since then, some people think time travel might one day become a reality, while others brush it off as pure fantasy. The famous physicist Stephen Hawking even hoped we'd crack time travel someday. Yet, some claim time travel isn't just a future possibility, it's already happening. Join us on a journey beyond the limits of time and imagination as we delve into the mysterious world of time travel. Nikola Tesla's story. Nikola Tesla's time travel predictions. In the year 1895, Nikola Tesla made a groundbreaking discovery that would have a significant impact on the development of electrical engineering. This discovery was made when he was doing pioneering experiments with the Tesla coil, which he had invented. It was via the use of powerful magnetic fields that he discovered the first indications that it might be possible to manipulate time and space. His study with radio frequencies and the wireless transmission of electrical power via the atmosphere was a contributing factor in the discovery that he made. Tesla's humble origins were the first to be discovered many years after they had been uncovered. It is believed that the Philadelphia experiment, which is infamous and controversial, took place in October 1943 during World War II. Some of these tests would eventually lead to the Philadelphia experiment. According to the legend, the United States Navy carried out a covert operation at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, where they recruited Nikola Tesla due to his ability in the field of electromagnetism because of his expertise. Their purpose was to conceal the destroyer escort USS Eldridge from radar detection and even teleport it from Philadelphia to Norfolk, Virginia. This was meant to be accomplished successfully. The experiment continues to be a source of conjecture and fascination, despite the fact that official confirmation of the experiment has not yet been obtained. But even before these purported classified military endeavors, Tesla had already produced findings that were fascinating: the Philadelphia experiment. In July of 1943, the United States of America found itself fully involved in World War II, which was one of the most terrible battles that the world had ever seen. There was a violent conflict going on between the Allies and their forces in Fortress Europe and North Africa, and it was of the utmost importance that they get support. Convoys of courageous individuals regularly sailed over the perilous waters of the Atlantic Ocean, putting their lives in danger in order to keep a steady supply line running from the United States to Europe, which was in the midst of a war. Every time they left the secure location of the pier, the courageous sailors of the United States Navy, the United States Coast Guard, and the merchant marines embarked on these dangerous journeys. Each and every convoy was aware that the ruthless German wolf packs, also known as the infamous U-boats, would eventually take down each and every convoy. A staggering 6 million tons of Allied shipping was sunk by German U-boats in the year 1942 alone. This is equivalent to an average of approximately 2 ships being sunk every single day. It appeared that these underwater predators were sinking ships at a rate that was faster than they could be manufactured. And as a result, over 30,000 brave sailors from the Allies lost their lives. The situation became desperate, and something had to be altered. USS Eldridge. At the beginning of the summer of 1943, a small cannon-class escort destroyer known as the USS Eldridge was parked in dry dock at the Philadelphia Naval Yards. This marked the beginning of a period of change. With only a month of service under her belt, this vessel was about to go through a change that would be unparalleled in the annals of nautical history. The United States ship Eldridge, which was loaded with cutting-edge generators and experimental equipment, was on the verge of making a breakthrough leap that would make the maiden flight attempted by the Wright brothers look like a piece of cake. The expedition ship, the United States ship Eldridge, was outfitted with daring experimental equipment that was supposed to make it impossible to detect. With the help of the unified field theory developed by the renowned physicist Albert Einstein, the vessel would not only be able to modify its gravity field, but it would also be able to manipulate its electromagnetic field. With the implementation of powerful generators that would bend the rays of light that surround the ship, this audacious attempt would make the United States ship Eldridge completely invisible to the naked eye. The USS Eldridge D-173. This extraordinary warship, the United States Navy ship Eldridge D-173, was commissioned by the United States Navy. The year 1942 saw the delivery of one of the 116 Cannon-class destroyer escorts that were ordered around that time. A shipyard owned by the Federal Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company was the location where her keel was set down on February 22, 1943. This event took place in the middle of Newark, New Jersey. The United States ship Eldridge D-173, which had a length of 93 meters, a beam of 36 feet 10 inches, and a navigable distance of 11 feet 8 inches, was the first vessel to arrive at the shipyard following its arrival. As opposed to being a full-fledged destroyer, it was intended to be used as a destroyer escort. However, destroyer escorts were designed expressly for the purpose of protecting commerce ships and troop transports. This is in contrast to destroyers, which were assigned with the responsibility of escorting and protecting large military fleets, and hence required fast speeds in order to keep up with cruisers, battleships, and carriers. They prioritized their escort duty over raw speed, which resulted in them being typically smaller and less heavily equipped than other types of vehicles. The United States ship Eldridge D-173, which had a length of 93 meters, a beam of 36 feet 10 inches, and a navigable distance of 11 feet 8 inches, was the first vessel to arrive at the shipyard following its arrival. The United States Navy ship Eldridge had a total crew of 216 people, with 201 enlisted sailors and 15 officers serving on board. She was armed with 3 main guns measuring 76 millimeters each, a bow-mounted anti-aircraft gun measuring 40 millimeters, 8 anti-aircraft guns measuring 20 millimeters each, 3 torpedo tubes measuring 21 inches, a Hedgehog Mark 10 anti-submarine mortar launcher, and 8 Mark 6 anti-submarine launchers. Her arsenal was nothing short of formidable. There was no doubt that the United States ship Eldridge was a formidable adversary, ready to meet any challenge that came her way. As it lay magnificently in a dry dock at the Philadelphia Navy Yards, the United States ship Eldridge had only lately been given a new coat of paint and was brimming with cutting-edge equipment. As the entire crew of the ship prepared to take a break and recharge their batteries, more than 100 military commanders, researchers, and technicians stared in awe. In preparation for a test that had the potential to alter the trajectory of the war and revolutionize naval warfare, the United States Navy ship Eldridge was ready and waiting. When the generators on board began to hum, they unleashed a surge of electrifying energy that grabbed everyone who was present. As if by some sort of enchantment, the spacecraft did not only become invasive to radar or sonar, rather, it was shrouded in a peculiar fog that had a greenish hue. And then, in a twist of scientific surprise, it disappeared entirely. Einstein's theory of unified fields has been successful. Despite the fact that light was being bent around the ship, it was completely invisible to the naked eye. It was easy to feel the researchers' joy when they made their discoveries. Their greatest expectations had been blown away by the results of this experiment, the bittersweet victory. Their victory did not last for very long. After the generators were turned off and the ship emerged from its unseen cloak, they were confronted with a discouraging finding. Several seamen were found to have horrific burns engraved into their bodies after the battle. They were all overcome with nausea, and it appeared as though an uncomfortable feeling of panic had taken hold of them. Inexplicably, One of the sailors had plummeted a deck below where he had been standing, as if he had traversed through a solid block of steel. In a surprising turn of events, his hand had fused with the bulkhead, so affixing flesh to the frigid steel. Some of the men had, in their own words, gone utterly insane, according to the researchers who were conducting the study. A win that was both bitter and delicious. The experiment had, in fact, been successful in removing a steel monster that measured 300 feet in length and weighed 1,600 tons. But it had come at a huge cost to the crew, who were struggling to come to terms with the strange and horrifying implications of their breakthrough. Another test for the USS Eldridge. On the fateful day of October 28, 1943, when another test was planned for the USS Eldridge, there was a sense of determination to iron out the wrinkles before releasing this groundbreaking technology that had the ability to alter the tide of the war. This was a day not to be forgotten. The idea of a full fleet of invisible vessels fighting on behalf of the Allies appeared tantalizingly close to becoming a reality. During the time that daylight was shining on the ship, the experimental apparatus did not undergo any modifications or recalibrations. They attempted to begin the field once more, but this time the ship did not simply disappear from view. Rather, it seemed to phase out of reality itself. The United States ship Eldridge, a fully equipped destroyer escort, made an appearance at Norfolk, Virginia, some 300 miles distant, accompanying the commercial vessel SS Andrew Furuseth. This came as a complete surprise to everyone. As the USS Eldridge materialized in a flash of odd blue light, shining with a disturbing green hue, the crew that was aboard the commerce ship could not believe what they were seeing. During a few eerie minutes, it appeared as though the two ships were overlapping, as if they were existing in different realms. At that moment, the United States ship Eldridge disappeared just as suddenly as it had appeared, and then it reappeared in Philadelphia. Another heartbreaking discovery. Researchers came aboard, anxious to offer their congratulations to the crew and to discover the secrets that surrounded this hitherto unheard-of expedition. The result, on the other hand, was even more horrific than they had anticipated. The bodies of the sailors were torn and charred, and they writhed in anguish. Several of them were merged with the ship's metal, giving the impression that the ship had taken ownership of them. Their limbs had been converted into malformed extensions of the vessel, and they were screaming in anguish as a result of the sheer savagery of the aftermath. During one horrifying scenario, what had been a male was now a woman, and its life had been extinguished in a manner that was reminiscent of a nightmare. Others continue to be lost in the folds that exist between worlds, never to be seen again. This continues to this day. There is no doubt that the experiment was a complete and utter failure. Following its aftermath, a covert operation was initiated with the purpose of erasing the evidence, brainwashing sailors, manipulating documents, and concealing the unsavory secrets of the government. A horrible legacy was left behind as a result of the events, which included several deaths, dismemberments, and lives that were destroyed among the courageous sailors of the Navy. Tesla's first invention. Tesla initiated a journey into the unknown earlier in the month of March in the year 1895, laying the groundwork for his astounding experience with time travel. It has been reported that on March 13th, a reporter from the New York Herald met Tesla in a cozy cafe, where the inventor appeared to be in a state of great shock. The frightening experience he had with 3.5 million volts was the source of his strange demeanor to begin with. While recounting the near-fatal incident, Tesla admitted that the electrical spark had traveled a full meter through the air and hit him on the right shoulder. He also stated that the spark had rushed through the air. He emphasized the seriousness of the situation and explained that if his assistant had not quickly turned off the current, it may have been the moment that he passed away. Tesla's life was profoundly impacted by the resonance of the electromagnetic charge. During that brief instant, it temporarily disengaged him from his space-time reference, providing him with a unique opportunity to simultaneously see the past, the present, and the future. Nevertheless, he discovered that he was paralyzed and unable to assist himself while he was inside the electromagnetic field. It was his watchful assistant who took action and turned off the power just in time to avoid any irreparable harm from occurring. The infamous Philadelphia experiment. During the famed Philadelphia experiment, which took place many years later, a variant of this experiment would finally make its appearance. Tesla would seek to harness the power of electromagnetic fields in order to carry a ship through space and time. This would be done in collaboration with the experimental team. Some people continue to hold the view that the tantalizing possibility of time travel has not yet been completely explored in the future, despite the fact that skeptics frequently dismiss such ideas as science fiction. Time-traveling man, Bielek. One of the most intriguing cases included a man who asserted that he had been to the year 2345 and brought with him some gloomy prophecies. But is it even possible to go through time? The question is, who exactly was this mysterious time traveler? The paradoxes that surround time travel make us feel as though we are being drawn into the story of a man and the catastrophic predictions that he has for all of humanity. In his younger years, Bielek was anything from a typical child. Although he was born in 1927, he stood out due to his outstanding intelligence. He was able to effortlessly regurgitate verbatim anything he had lately read, which earned him the nickname Walking Encyclopedia. His memory was so extraordinary, and his cognitive skills were so uncanny that he gained this nickname. At a young age, he embarked on a wonderful adventure through life. He asserted that he was able to overhear a conversation and fully comprehend the words that were being stated when he was only 9 months old. After a number of years had passed, he saw the movie The Philadelphia Experiment, and something inside him began to stir. In the film, which took place during World War II, the protagonists were sailors serving on the USS Eldridge, who discovered a means to make the vessels of the United States Navy vanish. A concept that struck a chord with Al was the film's depiction of the crew of the ship inexplicably disappearing while being transported through time. Suddenly, he was overcome with a curious feeling of recognition. Al felt as though he was repressing a significant part of his background, which led him to experiment with a variety of New Age treatments. This uncanny familiarity was the driving force behind his decision. Long-lost recollections came to the surface as a result of the process. During his investigation, he discovered that his birth year was 1916 and that his real name was Edward Cameron. It turned out that the people he had been thinking of as his parents were actually legal guardians appointed by the state themselves. During the course of Al's investigation into his background, he discovered previously concealed realities. He divulged the information that his biological brother, Duncan, had been kept hidden from him for a considerable amount of time, maybe as a consequence of his efforts to suppress his memories. World War II. During World War II, a group of sailors were operating on the deck of the USS Eldridge. As far as they were concerned, they were under the notion that they had found a way for the United States Navy to conceal its vessels. At some point throughout the course of the film, the crew of the ship suddenly vanished without a trace, and they were subsequently transported across time. Following the conclusion of the film, Al experienced a peculiar sense of recognition that he had not experienced before. After coming to the awareness that he was on the verge of passing away, he experimented with a variety of complementary and alternative medicine treatments. Al was trying to keep anything from coming out, and as a consequence, he was able to recall a number of experiences that he had previously forgotten. Al learned that his birth year was 1916 and that his real name was Edward Cameron through the process of recalling his prior existence. He also learned that his nickname was Edward Cameron. As far as he was concerned, the individuals whom he referred to as his parents were, in reality, the legal guardians that the state had appointed for him. Duncan, his biological brother, had been kept a secret from him ever since he buried his history. This had been the case ever since he buried his background. He argues that as his memories started to come back to him, he became conscious of the fact that he had been a participant in the infamous Philadelphia experiment. According to him, The project, which he claims began in 1931, was a collaborative effort between him and his brother during World War II. In addition to this, he asserts that they started working on it together. His claim is that he and his brother were there at the trials that took place in 1943. He is speaking from personal experience. Based on the information that Al supplied, it appears that a number of experts were involved in an endeavor to conceal American vessels from Nazi U-boats. Their names were John, Hutchinson, von Neumann, and Tesla, respectively. They were referred to by their respective names. Once they had achieved a certain level of success in 1940 with the hiding of smaller vessels, they shifted their focus to the United States ship Eldridge. Al claims that a big problem manifested itself on July 22nd, after 3 years had passed since the event first occurred. Al and his brother's involvement in the infamous Philadelphia experiment. Following the resurfacing of his memories, Al came across a revelation that was really astounding. It is well known that he and his brother were both active participants in the notorious Philadelphia experiment. According to Al, the conception of this mysterious undertaking dates all the way back to the year 1931. During the course of World War II, the brothers enlisted in the military in order to take part in the clandestine mission. Al related their first-hand involvement, going on to explain that in 1943, they were present for the most remarkable trials that were carried out as part of the development project. Al went on to say that they were involved throughout the entire process. The narrative that he provided suggests that a group of professionals had the purpose of concealing American boats so that the Nazis would not be able to recognize them. John Hutchinson, Carl von Neumann, and Nikola Tesla were the names of 3 of the individuals who were a part of this organization. Following the fact that they had been successful in their earlier attempts to conceal smaller warships in 1940, they decided to focus their attention on the United States ship Eldridge 3 years later. On the 22nd of July, however, they were confronted with a big obstacle that brought the possibility of their efforts being unsuccessful. The crew was left disoriented and physically ill as a result of the ship's appearance, which occurred after it had entirely vanished. However, after only 15 minutes, the spacecraft reappeared. Al stated that the Navy was adamant about accelerating the testing procedure, despite the fact that John von Neumann had requested additional time for the process. Unbelievably, Al and his sibling found their way back to the United States ship Eldridge, only to find out that they were not on board when the ship reappeared. This was an inconceivable turn of events. The 2 brothers came to the conclusion that they should leave the ship as the feeling of terror began to set in. The projected arrival of these persons in Philadelphia in 1943 did not correspond with the arrival of these individuals on land. The year 1983 was the one in which they found themselves in Montauk, New York, rather than any other year as well. In addition to being greeted by security people and helicopters, they were also greeted by the stunning sight of John F. Neumann, who had aged 40 years since their previous encounter. This was a very memorable experience for them. Al asserts that the brothers found themselves in a secret underground facility as a consequence of the actions that they took. His incredible reasoning was that they had journeyed through time itself, caught within a hyperspace bubble, which was a rare phenomenon that they had experienced through John von Neumann's earlier theories. He claimed that they had experienced this extraordinary event. Al contended that this one incident constituted a threat to the very life of every living thing on the planet Earth, and that this threat was especially severe. It became abundantly evident to Al, Duncan, and the troops who were standing by that the circumstance in which they found themselves was exceedingly precarious as the fabric of time began to unravel in front of them. John von Neumann's solution. A solution was suggested by John von Neumann. It is of the utmost importance that they make their way back to the USS Eldridge and destroy the mechanism that is responsible for this temporal calamity in order to put an end to the catastrophe that is expected to occur. They were sent on a mission with the primary objective of repairing the time rifts that had led to the descent of the Earth into anarchy. In order to fight the mechanism that was threatening to destroy reality, The men traveled back in time, armed with nothing but axes. Their goal was to confront the mechanism. At each and every instance, the generators were unable to survive the relentless assault that was being directed at them. At the same time as the machines started to malfunction, time itself started to repair itself, and it started stitching the ripped cloth back together again. Al, who had been vital in the ship's recovery, lapsed into a condition of unconsciousness throughout the duration of the journey that transported the USS Eldridge back to 1943. This occurred during the course of the expedition. Upon regaining consciousness, Al found that he and his brother were both present at a medical facility at the same time. Uncertainty persisted throughout the year despite this fact. They had traveled forward in time, and it was either 1943 or 1983. They had accomplished this feat in some way. According to Al's recollection, the time was specifically 21:37 at the moment. While they were healing from the radiation, they fought with the symptoms of radiation burns for the entire 6 weeks that they were exposed to radiation. On the other hand, the future turned out to be completely different from what they had ever imagined it would be. In this peculiar world, hospitals were run according to cutting-edge principles, which resulted in the replacement of conventional bandages and antibiotic creams with cutting-edge therapies that used light and vibration energies that were more effective. Time travel brought about a number of unsettling changes, and the programming that was shown on television provided a window into these alterations. It was notable for the absence of comedies and soap operas, as well as the presence of historical documentaries and stations that were out of date. Al delved deeper into this reality. As Al proceeded further into this world, he became aware of shocking transformations in the geographical landscape of the United States. The United States of America had lost a significant amount of area between the years 2020 and 2025, which resulted in the transformation of the once bustling state of Florida into the thriving city of Atlanta. Because of the destruction caused by nuclear weapons, the population of the globe had decreased from 7.7 billion to a paltry 300 million, and as a result, sovereignty had been replaced by a global military dictatorship during this time. Al sought to return to his original time. Unfortunately, when Al attempted to return to his native time, he ended up landing in the year 2749, which is a world that will be permanently devastated by nuclear conflict. Despite this, humanity had managed to cobble together a utopia in the middle of the wreckage. Their tenacity had paved the way for a new route and provided a glimmer of hope in the face of tremendous challenges. Al expressed his belief that humanity was in for a future that was beyond our wildest dreams. As a result of the marvel of anti-gravity machines and the growth of robots in the workforce, the shackles of money and employment have been destroyed and declared useless. The emergence of a world at peace, liberated from the shadows of conflict, is evidence of the progress that humanity has made. Al and his brother had undergone a journey through time, and it had left an indelible mark on both of them. Duncan, who was sent back in time to 1983, was subjected to the unanticipated toll, which ultimately led to his untimely death. An uncommon request was made by Al to his parents, urging them to have another child so that he could inherit Duncan's beliefs and memories. Al's memories were erased on account of Duncan's telepathic abilities, and he was transported back in time to the year 1927, where he assumed a new identity. There has been a lot of discussion among conspiracy theorists about this story, which is at the intersection of reality and fiction. To this day, Al continues to maintain his unwavering commitment to the veracity of his time journeys. As we get closer to the year 2025, which he told us would be the year when Florida will disappear, we are waiting for confirmation of his statements. Is time travel really a reality? Time travel is a fact in the realm of science, albeit perhaps not in the way that it is portrayed in popular fiction. The passage of time is an indisputable reality that we all experience, and each passing moment is a journey through time. On the other hand, the whimsical time travel that is frequently depicted in science fiction, such as in Doctor Who or Back to the Future, goes into the worlds of alternate timelines and parallel universes. In this story, The characters struggle with the consequences of changing the past or the present based on insights from the future. They weave complicated narratives of cause and effect that engage the imagination. As depicted in the majority of literary storylines, time travel typically involves a dramatic entrance into a time machine, which is then followed by a magical reappearance in settings such as the Wild West, medieval worlds with knights, or even the era of dinosaurs. Time travel is brought to life through the cinematic tales that are presented here. Although it is possible that scientists do not yet consider time travel to be a viable concept in the real world, they are not willing to completely discard the concept. The nuances and complexities of the idea are what really deserve to be taken into consideration. When it comes to the area of physics, there is a passing recognition that the possibility of time travel is not completely out of the question. Nevertheless, the kind of time travel that is depicted in science fiction, in which individuals are able to travel back and forth through time without any difficulty, or the procedures that can be used to send someone across considerable lengths of time without causing them any harm, have not been verified. The possibility of time travel. The subject of whether or not it is possible to travel through time has been one that has been debated ever since the novel The Time Machine by H.G. Wells was first published. A Victorian inventor who goes back in time to the year 802 AD is the protagonist of the novel, which narrates the account of his journey. There are those who believe that it will be feasible to travel across time in the future, but there are others who consider such concepts to be science fiction. Stephen Hawking, who passed away recently, harbored the hope that one day humans will perfect the technology necessary to travel through time. While this is going on, there are a lot of people who believe that time travel experiences have already taken place. On one occasion, a man asserted that he had traveled to the year 2345 and provided some grim forecasts regarding what was anticipated in the future. Could it even be possible to go through time? Who exactly is this enigmatic slider that moves through time and causes time jumps? Whenever time travel paradoxes occur, what happens to them? Scientists' views on time travel. In his book, Black Holes and Baby Universes, Stephen Hawking made the observation that the absence of future tourists invading our present existence is the most compelling evidence that we have against the possibility of time travelers. But there is a tantalizing amount of evidence from scientific research for certain aspects of time manipulation. Particularly with regard to the observer, the special theory of relativity developed by Albert Einstein emphasizes the relativity of time. Someone who is traveling through space at a speed that is very close to the speed of light would age at a rate that is substantially slower than that of a person who is standing still. One person who exemplifies this phenomenon is astronaut Scott Kelly, who in comparison to his identical twin brother who was born on Earth, aged slightly more slowly through the course of his year spent in space. When one investigates the peculiar physics that serves as the foundation for time travel, one comes across concepts such as wormholes, black holes, and string theory. These fascinating ideas frequently provide a wealth of material for science fiction in a variety of forms of media, including but not limited to novels, films, television series, comic books, video games, and other forms of media. On the other hand, let's give some thought to this fascinating subject. Can we truly traverse through time? To answer this question in a nutshell, the answer is yes, and you are doing it right now, speeding through time at a rate of 1 second each second. The passage of time is like a river that never stops moving. It moves at the same speed regardless of whether you are impatiently watching paint dry or wishing for more hours to connect with a friend who is far away. Our existence is governed by the universal rhythm that is always present. On the other hand, the notion at hand is not the same as the time travel that you have probably experienced in well-known science fiction stories, such as Doctor Who, Star Trek, or Back to the Future. The protagonists of these tales are bold individuals who, after stepping aboard fanciful vehicles, choose to either travel back in time or propel themselves forward into the potential future. As they reappeared, they were accompanied by cowboys, knights, and even dinosaurs, which sparked exciting adventures. A dance with parallel universes and different timelines is frequently at the heart of some of the most compelling stories about time travel. Using information from the future, the characters struggle to come to terms with the tremendous repercussions that would result from altering either the past or the present. It is a captivating investigation of hypothetical situations and the complex consequences that would result from them. Have scientists ruled out the possibility of time travel? In actuality, the notion of time travel has not been completely disregarded by the scientific community as of yet. In spite of the fact that they do not readily accept the concept, they do not discount it completely. It is possible that the concept of traveling across time via a leap of faith is connected to the principles of physics. In spite of this, scientists are wary because of the many nuances and complexity that are involved in such endeavors. Since the beginning of time, no one has been able to demonstrate the kind of time travel sequences that are typically found in science fiction. These scenes involve people easily traveling back and forth in time. A well-known physicist named Stephen Hawking made the observation in his book titled Black Holes and Baby Universes that the most compelling proof we have against time travel is the fact that there are no tourists from the future who have arrived in our present. In the realm of physics, time travel, there are a few theories, the most prominent of which are special and general relativity, which propose that certain geometries of space-time or particular types of motion in space may offer the possibility of time travel into the past and the future, provided that these geometries or motions were feasible. Closed time-like curves are world lines that form closed loops in space-time, which enables objects to return to their own past. Physicists explore the idea of closed time-like curves in technical publications. It is known that there are solutions to the equations of general relativity that describe spacetimes that contain closed time-like curves. One example of such a spacetime is the Gödel spacetime. However, the physical validity of these solutions is uncertain. There is a widespread consensus among members of the scientific community that the concept of traveling backward in time is extremely improbable. If a theory were to be developed that would allow for time travel, it would inevitably give rise to potential causality issues. The classic example of a problem involving causality is the grandfather paradox, which postulates traveling to the past and intervening in the conception of one's ancestors, causing the death of an ancestor before conception is usually given. This paradox is a classic example of a problem that involves causality. Novikov and Deutsch are two examples of scientists who have proposed that it is possible to circumvent the occurrence of temporal paradoxes of this nature by employing the Novikov self-consistency principle or by utilizing a variant of the many worlds interpretation that incorporates interacting worlds, the concept of manipulating time. The scientific theory, and more specifically the groundbreaking work of Albert Einstein, provides a foundation for the idea of controlling time. Time is not a fixed quantity, according to Einstein's special theory of relativity. Rather, it is a variable that is determined by the perspective of the observer being considered. Getting closer to the speed of light gives the impression that time is moving more slowly. When compared to someone who is at rest, a person who is moving at such speeds would experience a slower pace of aging and, very literally, would experience a slower rate of becoming bored. Once astronaut Scott Kelly returned from a year spent in space, he was somewhat younger than his identical twin brother, who remained on Earth. This phenomena was powerfully proved by the fact that Scott Kelly returned from space. What is considered to be the most odd aspect of time travel physics may be traced back to concepts linked with wormholes, black holes, and string theory. Across a wide variety of media such as novels, films, television series, comic books, and video games, these theoretical structures have developed into rich sources of inspiration. However, that is not the end of it. An important part of this cosmic narrative is played by the strange dance that takes place between time and gravity. According to Einstein's general theory of relativity, the strength of the local gravity is directly proportional to the rate at which time passes. Dave Goldberg, a cosmologist at Drexel University, has investigated the specifics of this temporal waltz and discovered that time moves at a more leisurely rate in near-massive bodies, such as neutron stars or even the surface of the Earth, in comparison to the timeless rush that is experienced further away. Wormholes. In general relativity, Einstein's field equations allow for the possibility of wormholes, which are described as being composed of a space-time that has been deformed in a speculative manner. The following is an illustration of how a time travel machine that is theorized to make use of a wormhole that is capable of being traveled would theoretically operate. Following the acceleration of one end of the wormhole to a significant fraction of the speed of light, maybe with the assistance of a powerful propulsion device, the wormhole is then transferred back to the location where it originated. A different strategy would be to take one of the entries to the wormhole, move it to a point within the gravitational field of an object that has a higher gravity than the other entrance, and then return it to a location that is close to the other entrance. This would be an alternative method. For both these methods, time dilation causes the end of the wormhole that has been moved to have aged less or become younger than the stationary end as seen by an external observer. However, time connects differently through the wormhole than outside it, so that synchronized clocks at either end of the wormhole will always remain synchronized as seen by an observer passing through the wormhole, no matter how the two ends move around. An observer who entered the younger end would enter the older end at a time when it was the same age as the younger end. This is because the younger end is the one that is younger. To experience this would be the same as traveling through time from the point of view of an observer who is looking in from the outside. It is more of a way through time than it is a device that moves through time itself, and it would not permit the technology itself to be transferred backward in time. In essence, it is more of a passage through time. It is only possible to travel back in time to the point in time when the machine was initially made, which is one of the key restrictions of such a time machine. This is one of the limits that makes it difficult to travel back in time. Black hole. When one is in close proximity to a black hole, where the force of gravity exerts a powerful hold, time takes on an entirely different dimension. An individual who lives close to the edge of a black hole would only experience a few hours, whereas a person who lives far away on Earth might accumulate 1,000 years. If one were to travel back to Earth from such a vantage point, it would be the same as taking a step into the future, leaving behind the familiar chronicle of the past. On the other hand, traveling backward in time provides a significantly more difficult problem than the possibility of disintegration within a black hole. The paradoxes that are connected with time travel have been a headache for scientists for decades, and they have been working hard to unravel the subtleties of this phenomenon by utilizing the foundation of general relativity. The concept of a cylinder that could twist space-time in a manner analogous to rolling a straw between your hands was conceived as early as the 1920s, and it was on this idea that the seeds of potential solutions were planted. Possibility of time travel with time-like curve. It was not until the 1970s that a breakthrough came, which revealed that this apparatus may potentially act as a time machine to travel back in time. This possibility emerged as a result of the finding of closed curves that resembled time. A time-like curve that is closed provides an outline of the path that a hypothetical observer would take, which would appear to go forward in time, but would actually loop back to the beginning location in both time and space. The warping and folding of space-time that gravity causes, which ultimately results in space-time loops, gave rise to this fascinating concept after it was discovered. During the 1980s, this realization triggered a surge of serious scientific study towards time travel. Scholars such as Igor Novakov of Russia and Kip Thorne of the United States investigated the mechanics of time travel and the potential creation of such a system. On the other hand, the appeal of time travel also made it possible to encounter significant dilemmas. Imagine yourself throwing a billiard ball into a time machine, sending it to the past, where it collides with its earlier counterpart, and then returning it to the present. This is the scenario you should be thinking about. Researchers have continued to face challenges in the form of paradoxes such as these, which highlights how important it is to address the complexities and inherent contradictions associated with time travel. In spite of the fact that there was only sporadic interest in the topic, scientists persisted in their efforts to comprehend the mysterious complexities of traveling across time. Since the 1990s, there have been efforts made to develop time machines that are capable of functioning, although considerable progress has not been made with these devices. Every single model that has been devised up until this point has defects that are inherent to it, which contributes to the relative dormancy of this field. A significant obstacle is quickly revealed when one investigates the intricacies of time travel, despite the fact that it has the potential to be a fascinating possibility. The discovery made by Albert Einstein regarding the interchangeability of time travel and the relationship between negative matter and energy sheds light on an essential issue: travel theories and the concept of negative mass. A great number of theories concerning time travel are predicated on the existence of negative mass, which is analogous to the idea of negative charge in the field of electricity. Although the concept of negative mass is conceivable in theory, its actual manifestation in the real world is still a mystery. For the purpose of maintaining the stability of a wormhole, which is a projected space-time tunnel that bridges immense cosmic distances, the utilization of exotic matter or rare components becomes a particularly important factor. Without the presence of negative matter or energy, this tunnel, also known as a cosmic tube, would collapse under the massive gravitational forces that are acting upon it. Nevertheless, despite the fact that the idea displays potential, the existence of negative mass continues to be highly implausible. On the other hand, there are scientists that investigate quantum phenomena, such as negative energy on extremely small sizes, which provides a ray of hope for the development of a realistic time machine. Wormholes and cosmic tubes, which represent essentially the creation of shortcuts through the cosmos, are frequently mentioned in proposed theories. The hypothetical scenario includes, for example, bringing one end of the wormhole closer to a massive gravitational field, such as a black hole, while leaving the other end in a gravitational influence that is less powerful. Given that time dilation takes place as a result of the opposing gravitational forces that exist between the two ends of the wormhole, this configuration would, in principle, make it possible to travel through time. Indeed, the development of time machines that are capable of functioning is a challenging puzzle, as it is inhibited by the requirement for elusive negative mass and energy. Imagine you are attempting to construct a pizza with combinations of flavors that no one has ever tried before. Despite the fact that it is a beautiful notion, it is merely a theory. The gravitational forces would cause wormholes, which are a famous notion in time travel and are constructed from ordinary matter, to collapse very quickly for this reason. Cosmic pathways enabling time travel. A parallel can be drawn between this struggle with theoretical concepts and the desire to create something that is impossible. Physicist Stephen Hawking, who is widely renowned for his work, pointed out that the problem goes beyond simple technicalities. According to his musings, which were published in Physical Review D in the year 1992, he pondered the possibility of a chronology protectionist, which is an agency that prohibits the construction of closed curves that are similar to time. Because of the existence of these cosmic passageways, time travel is possible. However, the existence of these pathways might potentially lead to paradoxes such as the billiard ball conundrum or the famous grandfather paradox, in which changing the past could result in the elimination of one's existence. Augustine Rao, a philosopher who teaches at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, explores these complex conundrums in depth. He investigates not only the ramifications of causality and chronology, but also the depths of human free will. He achieves this by examining the implications of both. If physics allows for the possibility of time travel, then what makes it impossible for someone to go back in time and change the course of their own history? The frontiers of human agency are pushed to their limits by this thought-provoking dilemma. In spite of this, Rao continues to harbor a nagging sense that time travel and free will might be able to coexist in a peaceful manner. A number of intriguing questions come to mind whenever we consider free will and the past. Agustin Rayo makes the suggestion that the past is written in stone and cannot be altered. In the event that your grandfather lived long enough to have children, for instance, traveling back in time would not change the fact that he did have children. But here's where things get interesting. Your attempt to remove your grandfather would not be successful for a reason that is not related to some sort of cosmic conspiracy. This refers to the everyday occurrences that life brings our way, which are frequently hilarious. Just picture this. With unwavering resolve, you set off on your journey across time, only to trip over a banana peel or, more likely, miss your bus. You are determined to complete your time travel mission. Every one of these seemingly little occurrences is working together to protect your grandfather from harm. There is still a mystery surrounding the future of time travel, and it is exciting that no one from the future has arrived to shed light on the possibilities of this technology. We are left with tales like Bielek's, which add more layers of mystery to our comprehension. Nonetheless, confirmation of these stories continues to elude us, cloaked in a mist of doubt. Do you really think there is a possibility of people from the past or future presently living amongst us? Let us know in the comments section below. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Till next time.